Well, hello again from the Granite State. My name is Gary, and this is the Restoring Main Street podcast. Thanks for tuning in again. I've spent the last couple of posts, if you've been following along here, and I hope you have, trying to better define and share with you some of the ideas and reasons for starting Restoring Main Street, or at least the broadening of the scope behind Restoring Main Street. And a lot of it has to do with taking a look at where society is today, where America is today, the important things that we're talking about and discussing. And all of those, like I said, when I use the word Restoring Main Street, I have a vision of how I remember things being and what bothers me, or the reason these subjects come up, is based on the change that I'm seeing. And I'd like to tell you that a lot of it is good. At this point, I don't think I can say that. So with all of that in mind, like I have mentioned before, we're going to get into certain words and definitions, and for all the right reasons, some of those definitions and words right now, I feel, and I'm going to try to illustrate that, are being manipulated, are being changed, and specifically changed because that's how you change the culture, by changing the meaning of words, what we historically know them as, and what certain groups are trying to manipulate or change about those words. So it's kind of spawned another segment, basically talking about the fact that words matter. So I hope you can appreciate that little stinger. Basically, the suggestion, if that didn't move too fast for you and you can read through that, was suggesting just what I spoke about prior to running that stinger. The way you gain a change in culture is or change in any country, is through actually the culture, and a lot of it through the pop culture. That's why you see such an emphasis on social media. That's where you discover a lot of the just societal changes that you tend to notice. I can say this because obviously I'm not a youngster. Got a few years on me, so that's part of the reason a lot of these things, or these changing in the word meaning of words, is something that it just really, I notice it tends to present itself, and I pick up on it, as I'm sure many of you have. And one of the things that I really want to discuss based on that has to do with race and racism in this country. Now, if you take a look at the actual clinical definition of race or racism, the belief that race accounts for differences in human character or ability, and that a particular race is superior to others. It's a form of discrimination or prejudice based on race. The belief that each race has distinct and intrinsic attributes. Now that's the classical definition of race or racism. More racism. I say race, I mean racism. And those are the things that I remember growing up with. Those are the things that that I remember being taught to overlook skin color, that skin color doesn't matter. Through the 60s and through Martin Luther King, and I was born in the 60s, very young, obviously, but Martin Luther King espoused the idea that a man's character and how you conduct yourself is the way that you determine relationships, worth, and treating each other as equals. And it seems like now we're trying to redefine that word. We're trying to redefine racism. And a lot of that is caught up lately in the idea of critical race theory. And for the sake of sharing another definition with you, we'll take a look at the Oxford reference definition of what critical race theory is. Radical movement within the jurisprudence that traces its origins back to conference held in Madison, Wisconsin in 1989. Sometimes called outsider jurisprudence, it sets out to challenge the conventional liberal approach to civil rights, the civil rights issue, in particular the notion that there can be a colorblind view of social justice. And again, this is what I talk about, changing the definition of things. That comes across the Oxford definition as a fairly benign, perhaps just a different approach or a way of looking at racism or race and its effects on society. What I'd like to do is look at one other definition from the Britannica when it comes to critical race theory. Excuse me. Critical race theorists hold that law and legal institutions in the United States are inherently racist insofar as they function to create and maintain social, economic, and political inequalities between white and non-whites, especially African Americans. And honestly, that comes a whole lot closer to what I'm talking about reshaping the narrative of what racism actually is. And unless you live under a rock, I'm sure you've heard about CRT. I'm sure you've caught a news article or watched something on one of your favorite news sources or programs. And what the more radical side of this particular argument espouses is that the lack of melanin in your skin, your whiteness, automatically makes you a racist. There's nothing you can physically do to change that. And that's what it basically espouses, that there's no way for any of us to be viewed as individuals and based on how we treat others, defining whether we are racist or not. That is, in its essence, evil. I know how I was brought up, and my question to you right now is, how were you brought up? Does that statement that just because of the color of your skin, because you are white, you are just inherently racist, without question, and there's nothing you can do about it? Does that ring true to you? I have a strong suspicion that it does not. Many of you, if you take the time to watch this, I'm sure would be of the opinion that that's not an accurate statement. But the radicals that believe in CRT are still going to espouse that, and that's what they're doing to basically push their agenda. And where is that agenda being pushed? Well, it is showing up in our classrooms. It is showing up basically being introduced to your kids. And this is why you see this cropping up all across the country. You see individuals, parents voicing their outrage against this, and it needs to be done. You need to stand up. You need to voice your opinion, because basically this is an attempted indoctrination of your kids into something that is 100% evil, that is not true, and suggests that your actions or how you treat others has basically no effect on whether you're considered a racist or not. We all know racism still exists in the United States. Honestly, racism, even with all the progress that we have made to this point, and we have made great progress, will always exist. It's the law of percentages. It's the same thing as poverty. For all the things that we've attempted to do for people around us and to solve the issue of poverty, poverty still exists. And I believe that it always will. I'd like to say that poverty could be eradicated. It's something we should work at. All of us should work at arm's length, not expecting government to take care of all of those things. As individuals, as Christians, we're expected to reach out within our community and work to change those things. So it's the same thing with racism, and the idea that CRT presents that and they will argue, when you push back on this, when I push back on this, their argument is, well, that's because you're inherently racist, and that's what a racist would say. That is a flawed premise, and it suggests that people are not better than that we have not grown as a society, and perhaps people starting out with an opinion about race cannot change or cannot evolve. And that's not accurate either. So I bring up these things. Basically because I want you to consider what it is that they're trying to push on you, what it is they're trying to push on your children. And I encourage you to check into your child's curriculum, and it doesn't matter at what age, because a lot of our schools, as much as I hate to say this, check into your teachers union and teachers. A lot of radicals exist within the teachers union, and they believe these things. They believe critical race theory is real. I'm not saying it's definitely happening in your schools, but you need to find out. You need to question these things. And it's important. You're talking about literally, and I don't use this lightly, brainwashing a generation, or attempting to start to indoctrinate and brainwash a generation into believing the fallacy that your skin color dictates whether you are a racist or not. And to try and lighten this up a little bit, if you haven't seen this particular viral clip I'll be very surprised. But listen to this and see what you think.
Daddy teaches you can be anything in this world that you want to be, right? Don't Daddy teach you that?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter if you're black or white or anything.
It doesn't matter if you're black, white, brown, yellow, right? And how we treat people is based on who they are and not
And if they're nice and smart.
See, this is how children think right here. Critical race theory wants to end that. Now with my children, it's not gonna happen. My baby's gonna know that no matter what she wants to be in life, all she has to do is work hard, and she can become that.
Work hard, even though you don't know anyone. You can make friends.
Yeah, you can make friends, no matter what color they are. So we need to stop CRT. Period. Point blank. Children do not see skin color. They love everybody. They're good people. They love them.
We pray for people that are hurt.
I'm sure a lot of you have seen that viral video. That pretty much sums it up. I know I'm going to get a little bit longer on this particular clip. My attempt was to make this closer to something almost like our quick hits that we do here at Restoring Main Street. But the segment, Words Matter, I'll try to keep it to 10 minutes, but be honest with you, it depends on the subject. It may be closer to 15 minutes, as this one is stretching a little bit closer to 20. But this is something that is a festering cancer in our society, and basically something that we need to root out and stop now. Like that viral clip mentioned, we need to stop CRT and the redefining of what racism actually is. I have often argued in the past, when this subject has come up in my private life, that I know that we have changed, in the thought that if you were in a social setting at a bar or a restaurant today, and you witnessed an individual starting to verbally attack anyone of a different skin color, a different ethnicity, I guarantee you, within a few short minutes, you would have people around that individual stand up and start to question and push back on the individual that was doing the abuse. People don't stand for this anymore. They're small clusters and groups. Like I said, racism still exists, but the majority of Americans do not see race. They see people. We need to reemphasize that and not let the narrative be changed that somehow America is a racist country. That's not true. That's not true. And you know it isn't. Examine your own life. Is it true in your life? Is that how you treat people? Are you a racist? And are you going to accept the premise that just based on your skin color, you are racist? No. No. Doesn't ring true. Doesn't ring true. All right. That's the point I wanted to make. Something I wanted you to consider. As always, please check us out at restoringmainstreet.com. Please check our videos at YouTube, Restoring Main Street on YouTube. We also have a Rumble page, Restoring Main Street there. I have figured out how to post on Gab TV, so I will start to post all of these on Gab TV. So basically, you can find us just about anywhere. I would encourage you to go to restoringmainstreet.com. Josiah Whipple has penned a very powerful piece talking about racism, seeing how we're on that subject. So please support restoringmainstreet.com. Check out the website. Subscribe to our newsletter, email, so that when new writings and posts go up on the website, you'll get notifications and you can go and check those out. We appreciate all the support. And again, as I always do in leaving you, I leave you with this: God, freedom, and family. Because if we lose the first two, our families truly are doomed. So, thank you once again, and I'll catch you next time.